Years ago, I stood in a boardroom, surrounded by executives in their polished suits and carefully crafted smiles. The air was thick with tension as I watched a young employee being berated for a mistake that wasn't even his. My heart pounded against my chest. My palms grew sweaty, and the right words sat heavily on my tongue. But I said nothing. I remained silent, convincing myself it wasn't my place to speak up. That night, I couldn't sleep. The young man's defeated face haunted me. And I realized something profound. My silence hadn't earned me respect. It had cost me my self-respect. Every time we choose silence when our voice is needed, we don't just fail others. We fail ourselves. We trade our power for temporary peace, our purpose for momentary comfort. Inside each of you sits a voice that's unique to the universe. Nobody can speak your truth the way you can. When you silence that voice, you're not just holding back words. You're holding back the very essence of who you are. Look at your hands for a moment. These hands you possess, they're not just for building things, they're for raising up. Your voice isn't just for speaking, it's for speaking up. The respect you seek, the influence you desire, it's not hiding in your silence. It's waiting to be birthed through your voice. You didn't come here today by accident. Something inside you knows it's time to break free from the prison of silence. The world doesn't need more quiet observers. It needs authentic voices. Your voice. Because when you speak up with purpose, with conviction, with truth, that's when real respect isn't earned, it's commanded. And this is just the beginning of what we're about to explore together. The price of silence is far too high, and the rewards of speaking up are far too valuable to ignore. Your voice isn't just your right, it's your responsibility. Now, what is respect? Many of us have confused respect with fear. Many of us think that when people walk on eggshells around us, that's respect. When they tiptoe through conversations, careful not to disturb our fragile egos, we call that respect. But I'm here to tell you today, that's not respect, that's fear. And fear might control people, but it will never command that genuine respect. Real respect, the kind that transforms lives and builds legacies, isn't earned through silence. It's not found in nodding your head when your spirit is screaming no. You see, there's a profound difference between being respected and being avoided. When people respect you, they seek your voice. When they fear you, they avoid your presence. I've traveled across nations, spoken to thousands of people, and one truth remains constant. Those who command real respect aren't the ones who speak the loudest, but those who speak with authenticity when it matters most. They're the ones who understand that respect isn't about making others feel small so you can feel big. It's about standing tall so others can see what's possible for themselves. The people you truly respect, not the ones you're afraid of, but the ones who've earned a permanent place in your heart and mind. What do they all have in common? They spoke truth when others chose comfort. They stood up when others sat down. They voiced their convictions when others swallowed their words. The more you silence yourself to gain respect, the less respectable you become in your own eyes. And when you lose respect for yourself, you've lost the foundation for earning respect from others. You cannot give what you don't own. You cannot command what you don't embody. Every time you choose silence when you should speak, you're participating in a power dynamic that diminishes your worth. You're telling the world, my thoughts don't matter enough to be heard, and the world has an interesting way of taking people at their own valuation. I remember sitting with a group of influential leaders, and one of them shared something profound. He said, I never trust a person who agrees with everything I say, because either they're lying or they're not thinking. That struck me because it revealed a fundamental truth about respect. It's not earned through agreement. It's earned through authentic engagement. Real respect operates in the currency of truth, not in the currency of compliance. When you speak up, not to tear down, but to build up, not to destroy, but to construct, not to divide. But to unite, you're not just earning respect. You're teaching others how to respect themselves in the marketplace of ideas. Silence is bankruptcy. Every time you choose not to speak when your voice is needed, you're declaring spiritual and intellectual bankruptcy. You're saying to the world, I have nothing of value to contribute. But that's a lie. You have within you insights that could transform lives, ideas that could solve problems, and wisdom that could guide others. The power dynamic shifts the moment you realize that your voice isn't just a tool for communication, it's an instrument of transformation. When you speak with purpose, with conviction, with love for truth greater than your fear of rejection, you're not just earning respect, you're creating a new standard of what respect looks like. And this brings us to a crucial understanding about power and respect. True power isn't about controlling others through their fear of speaking up. True power is about creating an environment where every voice can contribute to the symphony of progress. When you find your voice and use it wisely, you're not just changing your own story, you're giving others permission to change theirs. The nature of real respect is like a mirror. It reflects back what you project. When you respect your own voice enough to use it, when you respect your own thoughts enough to share them, when you respect your own convictions enough to stand by them, that's when others begin to see you through the lens of authentic respect. In every moment of chosen silence, there's a price being paid, a price far greater than most of us realize. I've sat with CEOs who admitted their greatest regrets weren't the mistakes they made, but the truths they never spoke. I've counseled individuals who carried the weight of unspoken words for decades, watching as opportunities slip through the cracks of their silence. Silence isn't just the absence of sound, it's the presence of surrender. Every time you choose to remain quiet when your voice is needed, you're not just losing a moment, you're surrendering a piece of your personal power. It's like having $1 million in your pocket but choosing to live in poverty because you're afraid to spend it. Your voice is your currency in the marketplace of influence, and silence is voluntary bankruptcy. The words you don't speak today become the regrets you carry tomorrow. I remember watching a talented individual in my organization, brilliant beyond measure, who would sit in meetings bursting with ideas but paralyzed by fear, month after month. I watched as others got promoted, implemented their ideas, and shaped the future of the company. One day she came to my office, tears in her eyes, saying, "Those were my ideas. I thought of them first." And I had to tell her the hard truth. Thoughts without voice have no power to change reality. But the cost of silence goes far beyond personal loss. When you multiply individual silence across a society, you create a culture of compliance where mediocrity becomes acceptable and excellence becomes optional. How many innovations have never seen the light of day because someone was too afraid to speak up? How many solutions to world problems are buried in the graveyard of silent tongues? The most dangerous form of silence isn't the obvious one, it's the subtle compromises we make daily. It's nodding in agreement when our heart disagrees. It's smiling politely when we should be challenging assumptions. It's watching inequality, inefficiency, or incompetence and convincing ourselves it's not our place to speak up. Every time you choose silence, you're not just affecting your present, you're programming your future. You're training your mind to prioritize comfort over growth, safety over significance, fear over purpose. The cost isn't just in the opportunities lost. It's in the person you're becoming. You're becoming someone who watches life happen instead of making life happen. What most people don't realize about the price of silence, it compounds with interest. The more you stay quiet, the harder it becomes to speak up. The longer you hold back your truth, the more power you give to your fears. It's like a muscle that atrophies from lack of use. Your courage diminishes every time you choose silence over speech. The hidden opportunities lost through silence are perhaps the most tragic because we never get to see what could have been. It's the relationships that could have deepened through honest conversation. It's the promotions that could have come through voiced ideas. It's the impact you could have had on someone's life if you just shared your story, your insight, your truth. I've seen entire organizations crumble not because of bad decisions, but because good people with right insights chose to remain silent. I've witnessed relationships dissolve not because of conflict, but because of unspoken truths. The cost of silence isn't just personal, it's universal. When you deny the world your voice, you deny it your gift, your perspective, your unique contribution to the tapestry of human experience. Why we must understand that speaking up isn't just about personal gain, it's about collective progress. Your voice might be the key that unlocks someone else's prison of fear. Your words might be the bridge someone else needs to cross their valley of doubt. Inside you exists a voice that's completely unique to the universe. Nobody can express your perspective the way you can. Think about that for a moment. Out of billions of people who have walked this earth, your combination of experiences, insights, and understanding is absolutely unique. When you don't speak up, you're not just holding back words, you're holding back a perspective that has never existed before and will never exist again. Your voice carries something more valuable than just sound. It carries your essence. Every experience you've had, every challenge you've overcome, every insight you've gained, they've all come together to create a perspective that's irreplaceable. And with that unique perspective comes a responsibility. Yes, I said responsibility. Because knowledge without expression is like having a cure and keeping it hidden while people suffer. I've watched people sit on game-changing ideas because they thought, who am I to speak up? But let me ask you something. Who are you not to speak up? Who gave you permission to bury your insights? Who authorized you to silence your wisdom, you see? The question isn't whether you're qualified to speak. The question is whether you're willing to be responsible with what you know. Fear will always be there. It's like a shadow that follows success. But here's what most people don't understand about fear. It's not meant to stop you. It's meant to alert you to something important. When you feel that fear of speaking up, that's not a stop sign. That's your internal compass pointing toward growth. Your voice has been shaped by every tear you've shed, every victory you've celebrated, every defeat you've endured. That's not something to be silenced. That's something to be shared. Because somewhere out there, someone needs to hear exactly what you have to say. Exactly the way only you can say it. I remember meeting a young woman who thought her struggles weren't worth sharing. She'd overcome incredible obstacles, but she kept her story locked away. Then one day, she finally spoke up in a small group. After she finished, 3 people came to her in tears, saying her story was exactly what they needed to hear. Her voice, her unique perspective became their bridge to hope. Breaking through fear isn't about being fearless. It's about recognizing that your message is more important than your fear. It's about understanding that your silence serves no one. When you hold back your voice, you're not just denying yourself, you're denying others the chance to grow through your experience. Your unique voice, it carries authority that no degree, no title, no position can give. Because when you speak from authentic experience, from genuine insight, from hard-earned wisdom that resonates on a level that credentials can't touch, your voice, when used with purpose and authenticity, has the power to cut through noise and connect with hearts. The voice within you isn't just about speaking, it's about speaking up. It's about raising your voice not just to be heard, but to be helpful. It's about understanding that your perspective isn't just a viewpoint, it's a responsibility to contribute to the conversation of human progress. So, asking for permission to be heard. Stop waiting for the perfect moment, the perfect words, the perfect audience. Your voice, with all its uniqueness, with all its power, with all its potential to impact lives, is needed now. Speaking with power isn't about volume, it's about value. And today, I want to share with you principles that transform ordinary words into extraordinary impact. You see, powerful speech isn't just about opening your mouth. It's about opening minds, touching hearts, and moving people to action. I've seen people with great messages fail to create impact simply because they didn't understand the power of timing. Your words are like seeds, they need the right soil, the right season, and the right conditions to grow. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is wait for the right moment. But waiting isn't the same as hiding. While you wait, you prepare. While you wait, you observe. While you wait, you build your conviction. I remember sitting in a crucial meeting where everyone was rushing to speak first. But there was one individual who waited, observed, listened. When she finally spoke, her words carried such weight that they shifted the entire direction of the discussion. Why? Because she understood that power isn't in being the first to speak, it's in being the most discerning about when and how to speak. Discernment is like a compass for your voice. It tells you not just what to say, but how to say it, when to say it, and most importantly, why you're saying it. Every time you open your mouth to speak, ask yourself, will these words add value? Will they build up or tear down? Will they solve problems or create new ones? I've traveled across continents, spoken to people from all walks of life, and one truth remains constant. People don't connect with perfect words. They connect with authentic hearts. Your struggles, your failures, your doubts, they're not disqualifications from speaking up. They're qualifications for speaking with authenticity. Authenticity isn't about being perfect, it's about being real. When you speak from a place of genuine conviction, when your words align with your lived experience, when your message comes from a place of true concern for others, that's when your speech becomes powerful. That's when people don't just hear your words, they feel your truth. I've watched speakers with polished presentations fail to move audiences, while individuals who spoke with raw authenticity changed lives. Why? Because authenticity has a frequency that resonates with the human spirit. When you're authentic, you're not just transmitting information, you're transferring conviction. Powerful speech requires preparation. Some think preparation diminishes authenticity. That's a myth. Preparation doesn't reduce authenticity, it amplifies it. It gives your authentic message the vehicle it needs to reach its destination effectively. A surgeon doesn't become less authentic by preparing for surgery. An athlete doesn't become less authentic by practicing their sport. Your preparation isn't about memorizing scripts, it's about mastering your message. It's about being so grounded in your truth that you can express it clearly, confidently, and compellingly regardless of the situation. Building confidence through preparation means doing the deep work. It means knowing your subject matter so well that you can discuss it from any angle. It means understanding your audience so deeply that you can connect with their needs, their fears, their aspirations. It means practicing not just your words, but your presence. I want you to understand something profound. Every time you prepare to speak, you're not just preparing a message, you're preparing yourself. You're building the confidence that comes from knowing you've done the work. You're developing the authority that comes from mastering your material. You're cultivating the presence that comes from being fully prepared to serve your audience. most people don't realize about preparation. It's not just about what you're going to say, it's about who you're becoming in the process. Every time you prepare thoroughly, you're building habits of excellence. Every time you do the deep work of preparation, you're strengthening your character. The principles of powerful speech aren't just techniques to be learned, they're truths to be lived. When you combine proper timing with genuine authenticity and thorough preparation, you create something remarkable. You create speech that doesn't just communicate, it transforms. You create words that don't just inform, they inspire. You create messages that don't just reach ears, they touch hearts and move people to action. Your words have the power to shape reality. They can lift people from despair to hope, from confusion to clarity, from inaction to purpose. But that power is activated through these principles. It's activated when you have the discernment to know when to speak, the authenticity to speak from truth, and the preparation to speak with confidence. This isn't just about public speaking, this is about life speaking. Whether you're in a boardroom or a living room, whether you're addressing thousands or having a one-on-one conversation, these principles remain true. They remain powerful. They remain transformative. Fear of speaking up isn't your enemy, it's your indicator. That knot in your stomach, that racing of your heart, that trembling in your voice, these aren't signs that you're weak. They're signs that you're about to do something significant. Today, I want to show you how to transform that very fear into the fuel that will power your voice to new levels of impact. Most people think they fear rejection, but that's just the surface. Dig deeper, and you'll find that what we really fear is disconnection. We fear that if we speak up, we'll stand alone. We fear that our words will create distance instead of connection. But here's the truth I've discovered. The very thing you fear, disconnection, is exactly what you create when you remain silent. I remember working with a young executive who was brilliant at analyzing market trends. Every time he saw a potential problem, his heart would race, his palms would sweat, and he'd remain quiet. One day, after a particularly costly mistake that he had foreseen but hadn't spoken about, I asked him, what's the worst that could happen if you speak up? His answer revealed everything. People might think I'm not a team player. We've confused harmony with agreement. We've confused peace with silence. True harmony isn't about everyone singing the same note. It's about different notes coming together to create something beautiful. Your unique voice, even when it differs from others, isn't a disruption to the harmony. It's an essential part of it. Let me give you practical steps to transform this fear. First, recognize that fear is energy. It's neither positive nor negative until you assign it meaning. That energy coursing through your body when you're afraid to speak up, that's the same energy that can fuel your most powerful messages. Second, start with small victories. Don't try to address the board of directors on your first day of transforming fear. Start in smaller settings with people you trust. Each time you speak up, regardless of the outcome, celebrate your courage. You're not just practicing speaking, you're practicing bravery. I've seen people transform their lives by following this principle. Do it afraid, don't wait until the fear is gone, it won't be. Instead, learn to speak while the fear is present. Each time you do this, you're rewiring your brain to associate speaking up with growth rather than danger. Building resilience isn't about eliminating fear, it's about expanding your capacity to act in its presence. Think of it like building muscle. Every time you lift weights, you create tiny tears in the muscle fiber. It's in the healing of these tears that the muscle grows stronger. Similarly, Every time you speak up despite your fear, you're building emotional and mental resilience. Resilience isn't built in comfort. It's built in challenges. Each time you choose to speak when you're afraid, you're not just sharing a message, you're strengthening your character. You're developing what I call voice resilience, the ability to maintain your authentic voice, even under pressure. Building resilience requires recovery. Just as an athlete needs rest between workouts, you need to process and reflect after each instance of speaking up. Ask yourself, what worked? What could I do differently? How did I handle the fear? This reflection isn't about judgment, it's about growth. I've watched people transform from being paralyzed by fear to being energized by opportunities to speak up. The difference wasn't in their circumstances, it was in their relationship with fear. They stopped seeing fear as a wall and started seeing it as a doorway. They stopped trying to eliminate fear and started using it as fuel. Most people miss about fear in speaking up. The more you do it, the more you realize that most of your fears were imagined. The rejection you feared rarely comes. The isolation you expected turns into connection. The criticism you anticipated often transforms into appreciation. Your fear of speaking up isn't a flaw in your character, it's an opportunity for your growth. Every time you feel that fear rise up, remember, this is not your signal to be silent. This is your call to be courageous. This is not your cue to retreat. This is your invitation to advance. The transformation of fear into fuel happens one courageous moment at a time. It happens when you choose to see your racing heart not as a warning to stop, but as your body preparing you for impact. It happens when you realize that your trembling voice isn't a sign of weakness, it's evidence that you're stretching beyond your comfort zone into your zone of growth. Leadership isn't a position, it's a decision. And one of the most crucial decisions a leader makes is when to speak up. True leadership voice doesn't come from a title. It comes from the courage to say what needs to be said when everyone else is choosing silence. I've sat in rooms with CEOs who held impressive titles but possessed no true leadership voice. And I've watched entry-level employees transform entire organizations simply because they dared to speak truth with respect and conviction. You see, leadership isn't about where you stand in the organizational chart. It's about how you stand for truth and progress. Think about the great transformations in history. They didn't start with silent agreement. They started with individuals who understood that leadership begins the moment you decide your voice matters more than your comfort. When you speak up with purpose and conviction, you're not just sharing an opinion, you're demonstrating leadership. Let me share something powerful about influence through voice. Influence isn't about having the loudest voice in the room, it's about having the most valuable voice in the room. When you speak from a place of genuine concern for progress, when your words carry solutions instead of just complaints, when your voice lifts others while addressing issues, that's when you create lasting influence. I've watched individuals transform their entire sphere of influence not through position or power, but through purposeful speech. They understood something crucial. Every time you speak up constructively, you're not just addressing the present situation, you're building your legacy of influence. You're teaching others how to use their voice. You're creating a culture where speaking up becomes normal, not exceptional. Most people miss about leadership voice. It's not just about speaking up, it's about speaking up in a way that creates lasting change. Anyone can point out problems. Leaders point out problems while suggesting solutions. Anyone can express dissatisfaction. Leaders express dissatisfaction while inspiring hope for a better way forward. Creating lasting change through your voice requires understanding three key principles. First, timing, knowing when to speak for maximum impact. Second, tone, understanding how to speak so people can hear you. And third, Tenacity, having the persistence to keep speaking up until change happens. I remember working with an organization where a mid-level manager saw a critical flaw in their operation. Instead of just complaining or staying silent, she prepared thoroughly, chose the right moment, and presented her concerns along with practical solutions. Her voice didn't just identify a problem, it initiated a transformation that saved the company millions. That's leadership voice in action. Your voice has the power to create ripples of change that extend far beyond your immediate influence. When you speak up as a leader, you're not just addressing the present situation, you're setting precedents for future behavior. You're not just solving current problems, you're preventing future ones. You're not just sharing your thoughts, you're shaping organizational culture. Leadership through voice means understanding that silence in crucial moments isn't humility, it's abdication of responsibility. Every time you choose not to speak when your voice is needed, you're not just failing to lead, you're teaching others that silence is acceptable in the face of challenges. Leadership voice, it doesn't require permission when you speak with the intention of creating positive change. When your words come from a place of genuine care for the greater good. When your voice carries both truth and solution, you're already leading, regardless of your position. And remember this, the changes you create through your leadership voice might not be immediate, but they will be lasting. Because when you speak up as a leader, you're not just changing situations, you're changing mindsets. You're not just solving problems, you're setting standards. You're not just using your voice, you're empowering others to find theirs. True leadership voice isn't about speaking for others, it's about speaking in a way that inspires others to find their own voice. When you understand this, you realize that every time you speak up with leadership intention, you're not just addressing the present, you're investing in the future. As we draw to a close, understand that this moment right now is your turning point. The world doesn't need your silence anymore. It needs your voice, your experiences, your insights, your perspective. They're not just stories to be kept. They're solutions waiting to be shared. The time for waiting is over. The time for impact is now. Let me give you practical steps forward. Because inspiration without action is just entertainment. Starting tomorrow morning, I want you to make a commitment to speak up in one situation where you would normally stay silent. Just one. It doesn't have to be dramatic. It doesn't have to shake the foundations of the earth. It just has to be authentic. Take that first step in your next meeting. When you have that idea, share it. When you see that problem that nobody's addressing, address it. When you have that solution that could make a difference, voice it. Don't wait for permission. Don't wait for the perfect moment. Don't wait for someone else to speak first. The urgency of now cannot be overstated. Look around you. Every day, opportunities are lost because someone who could have made a difference chose silence. Every day, problems persist because those who see the solutions keep them locked inside. Every day, potential goes unrealized because voices remain unheard. I want you to understand something profound. Your silence is not just affecting you, it's affecting everyone who needs to hear what you have to say. It's affecting every life that could be touched by your insights. It's affecting every situation that could be transformed by your perspective. 10 years from now, what will you regret more? The times you spoke up, even if your voice trembled, or the times you stayed silent, even though your heart was screaming to be heard. The cost of silence is too high, and the time for waiting is over. Your simple but powerful action plan. First, start with what you know. You don't need to have all the answers to start speaking up. You just need to be authentic about what you do know. Second, build your confidence through small wins. Speak up in low-risk situations first. Let each small victory fuel your courage for bigger challenges. Third, surround yourself with people who encourage your voice, not those who silence it. Find mentors who can guide you, peers who can support you, and opportunities that can stretch you. Your voice will grow stronger in an environment that nurtures it. Every great voice started as a whisper. Every movement began with one person deciding to speak up. Every transformation started with someone deciding that silence was no longer an option. That someone is you. That time is now. Don't let fear tell you that your voice doesn't matter. Don't let past experiences convince you that silence is safer. Don't let comfort keep you in the shadows when your light is needed in the world. Your voice, with all its uniqueness, with all its power, with all its potential to create change, is needed now more than ever. As you walk out of here today, understand that you're not just carrying information, you're carrying responsibility. The responsibility to speak up when others won't. The responsibility to voice solutions when others only see problems. The responsibility to use your voice not just for yourself, but for those who haven't yet found their voice.